Hey guys, good morning. I hope you guys have started joining in. Okay, so we're gonna wait for a few more minutes to let people join in. Meanwhile, guys, if you have any questions, anything which you want to talk about in the meanwhile, you can please drop in your questions. I'm monitoring the chat. And today, yes, we're gonna talk about the data science part, right? So it's the weekends, and weekends we go for the master classes, right? So we're gonna talk about I think pandas. We left something on pandas last weekend, so we're gonna talk about that today. Right, so we're gonna cover a few more functionalities of pandas, and then we're gonna do a lot of exercises today. Right, so stay tuned, guys. Right, so meanwhile we are waiting for people to join in. If you guys have any questions, anything which you want to discuss, anything which you want to talk about your career regarding data science or anything, because I'm started getting a lot of offline questions. People are asking about how to make a switch into the data science field and what things to expect and all that, right? So if you still have any of such sort of questions, right? So yeah, I understand data science is a new field, right? And people are trying to make a jump in this field, right? And they consider it as a high paying job, right? So all of things, whatever questions you have, guys, right? So we can always talk. I'm a senior data scientist myself, and I've been in the industry for quite some time. So yeah, I might be able to help you in some of the odd questions. Yeah, I'm not saying that I might be good at everything. I mean, yeah, there's always a learning scope for everyone, right? But again, definitely I'll try to be the best I can to help you to get what you want in your career, right? So please utilize the time, and if you have anything to which you want to discuss, any questions, so all I'm all ears. You can always talk. Okay, so we're gonna wait for I think a couple of more minutes to let people join in, right? And then we're gonna start today with our discussion. So it's gonna be towards pandas, some of the remaining functionalities of pandas. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that. Meanwhile, I hope you guys are doing some practice at home, right? So at least a bit on Python. So not specifically on pandas, then still on Python. So at least be aware with the Python syntaxes, right? So it's quite easy, and it's still comparatively easier to understand the things while you're watching something on video, right, on YouTube. But again, trust me, when you start doing the same thing by your own, right, on the Python IDE, any IDE is fine. So in that case, it really becomes trickier, right? So it's not 100% a replica of what you do. So it sometimes tends to get trickier when you try to code on your own, right? So I would always request you to start practicing something at your home as well, right? So that's how we're gonna learn it. Okay, so I'm seeing people have started joining in, so I'm gonna wait for one more minute, right? So to let people join in. And meanwhile, if you have any friends or anybody who you want to call to this lecture, please feel free to invite them. So we're gonna wait for one more minute before we can start. And as always, guys, any questions, I'm all ears. I'm trying to monitor the chat, so if you have anything, so we can always talk. Okay, so then in that case, let's start. As you know, guys, my name is Arpit Jain and I'm a senior data scientist myself. And I've been into industry for more than 8 years now. I'm a motivational speaker myself. And since I'm part of the analytics field, so I know how industry has evolved eventually in the past few years, right? So you might have heard a lot of text and the tool like being used in data science. Like you must have heard of R, for example. You must have heard of big data. You must have heard for some of the BI tools like Tableau, Power BI, and all that, right? So a lot of tech and tools have been coming throughout these years, and they have evolved eventually, right? So what the major advancement I have seen during these years is like the company shifting their base from the traditional legacy tools towards Python. Okay, so the coding platform has prominently being Python now these days. I mean, I won't say for all the organizations. Yes, some other platforms has their own advantages, like SAS is another alternative to Python in data science. It provides more security, and I'll tell you how later. But again, yeah, so the finance organizations, they tend to prefer Python, so they tend to prefer SAS. But again, still I would say almost 80 to 90% of the organizations are having their base on Python. Okay, so Python gives you that flexibility to be introduced at multiple places with a lot of freedom for the plugins for your interjection of multiple architectural blocks. Right? So Python is definitely one of the key things which you might be needing to get into a data science field. Okay, so that is a reason why we have started with Python. Okay, so and we have covered few basic things of Python as of now. I won't say very basics, but yeah, so to at least to develop your interest. So we have started with functions, one of the very good or important aspects of Python coding language. So we have discussed with functions, and we were doing something on Lambda towards the last week, and then then the next week onwards we're gonna start the base, like different data types, maybe lists, tuples, dictionaries, and all that. So we're gonna take it one by one. Cool. And the meanwhile also we are doing a lot of exercises, so I'm trying to put up some decent questions and try to solve it live, and try to ask the questions also to you guys, right? So I mean, that's how I believe you will learn. But again, I would request you to be as interactive as you can in the class, so that will always help. Cool. And during the course also we're going to cover PySpark, so which is the distributed computation of Python. So Python is again flavored into multiple ways. So Spark is towards a big data part, so where your normal functionalities of Python does not work, it takes times, right? So in that we have master and a slave kind of an architecture, so where Spark comes into picture, and Python is working on top of Spark, so which is we call as PySpark. So we can talk about that as well, right? But Intel will be during the course of our study, right? And then you have a code right in front of your screen, which is Python 10. You can get the Unacademy Pro subscription, which is for 10% off, and then you can use the code right away on your screen, which is Python 10. Right, so just time for the quick promotion, guys. I'll just run you through why exactly you need a pro developer subscription, right? So this is basically for people who want to become a software developer, or maybe have just become a software developer, right? So Unacademy has and it brings you a platform, and Unacademy does bring you a platform where you can watch some of the good shows live, okay? And live as in you can talk to the people who are actually taking those shows live, and you can actually get a fair idea of what's going around, right? So, and some of the very good shows which are upcoming and which are actually going live on the Unacademy platforms are like one of the things is like hiring updates from the big companies or even the startups, right? Where you get all the right details about these companies. They can talk about their eligibility criteria. So it actually prepares you that whether you actually fit into those organizations or not, right? So I mean, what kind of pre-requirements are there in those organizations, right? And whether your I would say the things which you have in your candidature, maybe your technical skills, maybe your percentages in your 10th, 12th and your college. There's a lot of things, right? So you can talk about the eligibility criteria, and if there is some fine tuning available, so you can always talk about them, right? And then there's something called as how to approach CodeChef. So you already know, guys, so CodeChef, we have seen it's one of the a barrier for getting into a good job, right? So CodeChef, again, so you need to know the do's and the don'ts for the CodeChef, how to approach the problems there. So again, there is a very good show going live. I'll talk about that in the upcoming slide. So you can actually talk to that mentor who is taking that show live, and you can understand the do's and the don'ts, which is most prominent while you approach CodeChef, right? And then there is something called as pre-placement talks. Pre-placement talks where the HRs, the recruiters from the companies, they come themselves and they talk about the companies, right? So again, it's always important to connect with the company where you are targeting to get hired, right? So in the placements, there are a lot of companies which come. So you might be having a list of say XYZ companies where you feel that you will fit in, right? So it's always good to talk to these recruiters again, right? So you can get to know the vision of these companies. You can try to get to know what exactly these companies are looking for, right? So again, a very good place where you can talk to the recruiters directly, the HRs directly, and understand the hiring processes, their eligibility criteria and all those things, right? So you can talk to the recruiters directly and have your whatever questions you have regarding the job, regarding the company, you can get it cleared, right? And then definitely there is something called as top 20 questions. So top 20 questions are most frequently asked questions in the interviews, be it the behavioral questions or be it your technical questions, right? So that always helps again to have the right pointers in front of you to talk, right? So when you go and when you talk to these recruiters, right? I mean, it should not be like you have remembered something and you're talking as if, right? No. So it should be like you have some bullet pointers handy, so you have some content to talk about, and then you can prepare your own sentences ad hoc whenever you are talking, right? So that's, I believe, one of the good ways to take it forward. And then definitely there is something called as the life problem solving, right? So life problem solving, or you're doing a real life project, okay? So along with your mentor, so and then you'll be doing the problem solving live along with the person who's going to take that show, right? So you'll be having a freedom to talk to the mentor directly, and if you're getting stuck, if you have any issues, any problems, right? So you can get the respective solutions and the answers straight away on the live call itself, right? So that's again a very good way where you can talk. So some of the odd times you feel that you are doing the things, you are solving the problems, but again definitely something is not going right and you don't know how to approach, right? So then you Google it, right? And Google gives you n number of answers, you don't know which one to fit in, right? So it's always good to have somebody, some expert talking to you regarding those problems, so it gets your doubts cleared in more of a structured manner, I would say. Right, and then you have something called as the life journey of the fellow coders. So life journey of fellow coders from the big companies, I would say Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, right? So those are the big guns. So if you're really targeting the big companies, right, and then you want like what exactly these companies are looking for, right? What is the requirement and what are the changes which is required in my candidature so that I can get selected, right? And what do I need to do, right? So I mean, it's not that easy to get into those big companies, right? Yeah, and once you're part of those organizations, I mean, yes, that's definitely a life-changing thing. So you need to understand what could be the right things which you want to do, which you should be doing to be part of those organizations, right? So that's, I believe, what the things would be. So you can talk to your fellow coders from these companies and get to know the right details straight away. And then also on top of this, you have an option to talk to the industry leaders, where you can actually get an option to have a mock interviews done, right? So mock interviews, you understand, again, it's very important because when you go for the placements or any of your job interviews, right, if you do not have a fair feedback of on how you are, you'll never improve, right? Because I mean, everybody feels that I've done everything right, right? It's a normal human tendency. You never realize that what I'm doing wrong, right? Unless and until some expert tells you that, right? So it's always good to have the right feedbacks, right? So for that, the pre-placements mock interviews does help, right? So that's where I believe your inputs would be required. So you need to be part of those. So I believe that that's going to help you a lot in your job hunting process, right? And for all of this, you're going to pay $9.99, which is a very nominal fee, and then with the code right in there in front of your screen, which is Python 10, you can get it for 10% off, which is $8.99. Cool. Another good show which is going live on Unacademy platform is basically your college projects review. Okay, so college projects review is taken by Mr. Raj Vikramaditya, and he is going live every Friday night at 10 p.m. right, and he's taking care of the college projects review. Okay, so now if you want your college projects to be to tick all the right boxes, and and you want to land into a good job, right, post that, so this is the place, so you can get to know what are the right details, right, and then you can get your college projects reviewed. Okay? So if you want any suggestions, any alterations in your projects, or anything which you want to put up which you feel that might not be right, so you can get your everything corrected. So you have the one place stop here. So Friday night 10 p.m. Mr. Raj is taking care of this, and it's again a part of your developer subscription. Again, as I was talking about the Code Chef, so we have another show, Code Chef Apprentice. So we have it is going live on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. And then which is taken care by Mr. Sai Avinash. He's an SDE in Google, and he's a 7-star at Code Chef. Okay, so he's the right guy who can talk. Whom you can talk to regarding your, I would say, inputs. So your understanding towards Code Chef, the do's and the don'ts, right? So that's where I believe it comes into picture. So you can talk regarding the Code Chef as well. right? And then you have the official Telegram group. So official Telegram group, please do not forget to join this, because this is a one place stop for you to actually have all the right details handy, so to get to all the upcoming shows and the classes, right? So this is a place for you guys. Do not forget to join this. As always, do not forget to like and share, and do subscribe for the Code channel. You will get the live updates. Right, so now let's come to the content slide, guys. So we come to the content now. So what we're going to talk about. So today, as you know, it's a master class, and we'll be talking about the pandas. We are covering the data science part during our weekends. So as always, we have started with the pandas, right? So we have covered few functionalities on pandas till date, right? And then again, there are a lot of other things which were left out, right? So we have covered only few. So today we're going to start with something which has been left last weekend. So we're going to cover few of the remaining slides, few of the remaining functionalities on pandas, and then post that we're going to have few of the exercises. Okay, so now is that the right time to do some hands-on? Okay, I have enough given you the right functionalities. Now the test is to apply those, right? So when to use what. Cool. So just a quick recap. What is pandas, guys? So pandas is just nothing but a one odd Python library. Okay, so do not get confused with that pandas is data science. No. So pandas is just a library in Python. You must have heard this term pandas, numpy. It's very prominently used in data science world, right? Because yes, it provides a lot of functionalities within your data science part, which is actually used most of the times in your data science work. Okay, like in data science, you are working on the data, right? So you might be analyzing it, cleaning it, exploring it, manipulating it, visualizing it, right? So a lot of functionalities, like for example, just do a transpose of a data, or just to see how the data looks like, a basic descriptions, like the shape and size, a lot of things which you want to do in your data. And for this, you might have to create a user-defined function at the time of a go, right? But pandas it's like a wrapper class where you have all the functions already wrapped up inside. So all the functions already defined. If you import this library pandas, all the functions would be part of your environment, the coding IDE, whatever you're using, straight away, right? So you will be available with all of those functionalities, and you can use it in your data straight away. Cool. And we have been talking about a lot of such functionalities available in pandas, right? So I'm going to jump to the exercises to our Jupyter notebook. So we have been covering a lot of things on pandas. We did like good exercises on pandas as well. But I could see that during the last class, people were trying to understand the data science part. So I'll just do a quick recap of what we have done so far, so that they have a fair understanding of what we have covered till date, so that we can further go for the next topics. Cool. So we have just started with the basic thing, how to install a pandas. Okay, so again, pandas is a library for me, right? So you know, guys, so the basic way to install a pandas is using a pip function. Okay, so pip is like pip install pandas. Okay, so it's like that's how you're going to be installing pandas. But again, you cannot run it through Jupyter Notebook like this. For Jupyter Notebook, you have to just put an exclamation mark to run it like this. But again, you can use your command prompts as well. Like if you're using Anaconda, so you can use conda prompt, or your system CMD also. It works fine. Okay, so you can use pandas pip to install your libraries. Cool. And then just to check the version, so I'm using a lower version here, 0.24.0. So latest is 1.39 if I'm not wrong. Okay, but then you can ask me why I'm using this lower version. So it's all because of compatibility, right? So it's not only pandas which you'll be using in your code, right? There'll be some other libraries also, right? So most of the times the newer versions are applicable towards the higher ends of my Python as well, right? So it's always good to know what versions are working collaboratively together, right? So for me, this version works fine. I've been using it for quite some time. So I have my codes are all defined during, based on these versions. So I'm very much okay to use this. But again, you can still define whatever version you want to install. Nothing an issue. Okay. We talked about series. Series is just nothing but a collection of elements, again in form of a series, like an index values, right? So you have this is how you're going to define it. So we're going to use the keyword pd.series. So pd is my alias for pandas. So pandas, I have imported it as pd. Okay, so now pandas will be referred as pd. Cool. So now I've used series. We have talked about a lot of things. So we discussed how to create a series. Series is nothing but a collection of an element. It's more of a sequential collection of an elements. Okay. So I can put anything. So this is my indexes. You can see the indexes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the content Arpit 1, C, D, E, anything I want to give, right? I can pass it through a dictionary as well, where the index will be now my key will be my indexes, and the value will be my values in the series. We have talked about that. Some other functionalities of series. So we covered series in a very good way. So we talked about series, multiple ways how we can index it. So you already know it. So the range values, my individual values and all that. So we talked about this, taking care of my series. And post series we covered something called as data frames. So after series we covered the data frame. So data frames are nothing but my rows and column kind of for data. Okay, so like if you have an Excel sheet or a CSV file, comma separated values file, right? So there you have a tables in the like a tabular data, like the rows and you have the rows and the columns, right? So in rows and columns, that the same thing is called as a data frame in Pandas. Okay, so data frame is nothing but a rows and a column. So if you do like this, right? So for now I'm just calling a data frame function here. So you can call it using a pd.dataframe functionality, and if you don't give anything, it will just create an empty data frame. Okay, so if we run like this, for example, okay, so pandas is not defined. I'm going to call pandas first, and then I'm going to run this. So if you just call df here, so you won't be seeing anything. It's a blank, empty database. Okay, so you can still create an empty data frame using this functionality. Now to put up a data here, so this is how we started. Okay, so we have created up my first data set here. So name would be my column. So I'm giving a dictionary here, right? So dictionary, in the, again the key would be my column value and the individual series values. Okay, so if I run this and if I print data, just do a look at my data frame. This is how it looks, right? So this is a column, like the rows in the column data. So I have my column names here and my indexes here. Cool. And likewise, there are multiple ways to define my data frame. So I can put pass a list of lists. Again, here will be my indexes, and then I can pass a collection of my dictionaries also, a collection of dictionaries over a list. Multiple ways I can create the data frames. Okay, so nothing fancy here. And then we talked about slicing of my data. So I have some sort of data available with me, right? So but now I want some particular interest point of areas, like for example a particular row or a range of rows or a particular column or a range of columns or a mix of both, right? So there are multiple ways I would be needing the data to be part of my analysis, right? So that's where the slicing has to be done. So slicing again can be done in majorly two ways. There's a third way as well, but that's most that used very I mean that's not oftenly used, so we're not going to talk about that for now. So most prominently use a lock and ilock. Okay, so there are slight differences in lock and ilock. So preceding before your lock, so it shows that I is an integer. Okay, so now you can remember it like that. So it's not integer lock, but again you can remember it like that. So I is I for integer and lock, right? So basically ilock always takes the numbers. Okay, so for example, if you have a data frame and you have a data frame, you want to index anything, so you have to give the index values as a numbers, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like you cannot give the name of a column. For example, if your name of a column is say like this here, right? So if your name of column is A and B, you cannot give A and B. You have to give 0 and 1. So 0 will be my first column index and 1 will be my second column index, right? So you have to give the numbers here. So that's why you can see here. So ilock, I'm giving the ranges. It's separated by a comma. So comma on the left hand side we have the row values. The right hand side we have the column values, right? So likewise for ilock, I need to give all the numbers. For lock, I need to use for labels. For the column labels, I need to give my the names. So I can specify the names directly. Okay. So I want 2 till 4. Okay. So 2 to 4. So 2 range 4. This column is for range. So I want 2, 3, and 4 all. Cool. So that's what we did. So then we can mix in a map. So we can use the range, we can use the pinpointed values, or we can give multiple values over a list of indexes. So you can see I'm passing a list here again. So where I want the 0 and the 2 indexes only, right? So I'm giving the pointed values in a list, right? So I can do that. So multiple ways to iterate it. Again, we have something called as a condition. So I can also pass a condition of my what I want in the lock as well. Okay. So the condition is here. I'm saying is wherever for the row index, I'm saying that wherever the column 2 has a value of 20, so I want those only indexes, and the columns I want is 3 and 4. Okay, so this will give you the row index. So instead of passing the row index directly, I'm giving the row index as a filter. Cool, fair enough. So we talked about a lot of things on data frames. So we talked about how to add a column, how to drop a column, and some of the other functionalities like transpose, access, endim, data types, and all that. So we checked this. And something called as which came across to us was a describe function. So describe is give you a very good view of your data. Okay, so if we just do a describe, right? So I'll just run this and I show it to you. So you have df here. If you run this describe, okay, so it'll show you a very good functionalities here. So a brief lookout to your data. So you can see some of the good statistics here. So count, mean, standard deviation, min, 25th percentile value, max, and all that, right? So you have all the right details handy right in front of your screen. Okay, so that's what describe does you, and it has some good functionalities also, like percentiles. If you want this percentiles to be modified accordingly, you can do that. Cool, fair enough. And then we talked about some of the other functionalities like pipe, apply, and apply map. So pipe is for table wise manipulation, apply is for row wise elimination, row or column wise manipulation of your data, and apply map is for element wise. Okay, so we did something like that. And then in the last session we were talking about reindex, right? So reindex, I want to reindex the data. So I suppose the index is 0, 1, 2, 3, and I want this index to be changed to A, B, 0, and 1. Okay, so I can do that. So no, here I'm okay. So I'm not changing this indexes. Rather, I'm arranging the indexes. So I want the 0 to be called this, and 1 to be called as a fourth index, and I'm given a different two indexes A and B. So A and B is not referred here, so you can see the data has been marked as first as missing, but here I have a fill value here. So for the missing indexes I can do a fill value of 0, so it will fill up the values as a 0 because this index is not available in my data. Cool, it's different from reset index. So reset index is different, where we arrange the already available data into the stacked indexes, but in reindexes we align the data. So there is a difference in reset index and reindex. Cool, I believe nobody is asking questions, so no questions so far. So we're gonna talk about the renaming stuff today. Okay, any questions, guys? I am really sorry for being so fast giving you the recap because I don't want the interest of the class to go away. So I just gave a quick recap of what we did so far. So no major, I would say, even if you're joining in today, guys, right, still okay to start from today, no problem at all in that. Okay, so we're gonna anyway be covering a lot of things in the class, so do not worry about that. So it's not like you're lost. Okay, so we're gonna talk about things again in a very simpler way, so do not get worried. Cool, so again, if you have any questions, guys, feel free to drop in your questions. I am all ears, so we can talk. Cool, so what is rename functionalities here? Okay, so now I have a data frame. I have defined a data frame by this. Okay, so I'm passing my data, and this data is part of my data frame. Okay, so I have my values here. So one of my, so what all index values I have here? So I have the column names as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and my row indexes are 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So the rename functionality actually does give you flexibility to actually rename both of your columns as well as your indexes. Okay, so it's not necessary that you're going to rename only your columns. You can rename your indexes as well. So multiple times, multiple ways, it is actually required to rename your indexes as well. Okay, so now how the rename works. Cool, so we're going to do that. So we have something called as df.rename functionality. Okay, and then first let's look at the arguments which we can pass. Okay, so and you know this, so to look at the documentation, so we have something called as inside the parentheses you have to put shift and tab. Okay, so shift and tab, and then there's a small plus button here, so you can see what all arguments can be passed within it. Okay, so some of the common ones, you have seen the access before, copy you've seen before, in place. So you know this, in place, if I want this to be renamed without giving a df equal to here, I can use in place, so it'll automatically manipulate my original data frame. So I can do that, right? So you know this already. Some of the already available things, but now the differences are index and columns. Okay, so here columns is like where I want to change the column names. Okay, so I want to rename these column names. I can do that with this functionality column, or if you want to rename the indexes, I can use the index argument. Okay, so now let's look at this. Cool, so I have my columns here. So my bad, my system is acting up. Okay, so I want to rename the columns now. Okay, so now columns equal to, right? So in this column, so we are actually passing what? So we are passing it in form of a curly bracket, so which is my dictionary again. So dictionary has the syntax like my old column, okay, and then the colon, the new column name. Cool, this is your syntax. Okay, and then you can comma and then give it a comma and then keep on writing whatever changes you want to make. Okay, so this is the syntax. Okay, so I'm going to use it like this. So I have something called as 1. So I want 1 to be renamed as 1 underscore. Cool, anything I can do this. So and I want 2 to be renamed as 2 underscore. Cool. Right, so you can see this has been renamed now. So 1 and 2 has been renamed. But now if you call df, you can see this df is still not modified. Okay, so your data frame is still 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? It has not been modified. So in this case, there are 2 ways we can do this. If you want to modify your original content, then either you have to pass it like this, df equal to, right, which you already know this, or you can use a functionality in place. Okay, so in place equal to true. This will modify your data. Okay, so now if you call df, see your df is modified here. Cool. So that's the beautiful functionality of in place. So that's about the columns. You can change the columns, and also, so I'll just rerun the df again. Okay, my bad. Okay, so now I want to say change the what indexes as well. Okay, so now I want to change the index also. So I have something called as index, right? So index, yes, right. So index also I want to change. So same place I want to change the same way. So again, the old index value and the new index value. Okay, so now I want the 0 to be replaced as, say, a, and I want 1 to be replaced, sorry, 1 to be replaced as b. Cool. And now I'm doing in place is equal to 2. Let's see this. Cool. Can you see this? So both of the things are now done. So you can use it together also. So 1, 2, your column indexes, your labels have changed, and also your row indexes A and B, where the indexes were 0 and 1, you renamed it to A and B. Okay, so all the things are possible. Rename is again a very good functionality available in your pandas. So we always talk about this. So I mean, you might not be seeing a practical usage here, but it is very good when you actually do some of their computations in pandas, right? So it becomes very handy. Cool, so that's fair enough. So let's move to the next very good iteration. So pandas again has some good iteration functionality. So iteration, till now you've heard about for loop, right? So for loop is a very famous iterations which we have performed till date. But pandas has 3 different types of iterations. Okay, so in the pandas data frame, we can iterate it into multiple ways. Okay, so we have something called as iter items, we have something called as iter rows, and then we have something called as iter tuples. Okay, so again, so a few of the things are, I think I would say it's more of from the intuition perspective also. So iter items, it always takes in pairs. Okay, so it takes the key and the value pairs. I'll show it to you how it takes the key and the values. Okay, so iter rows, it takes individual rows of your data. Okay, so a single row is my one iter row. So if I do an iter row, so it will be like one row will be my one series, so individual series. My index value will be my row number, and the series will be my entire row data. So that is my iter rows. I'm iterating over the rows, and the rows I can have multiple values, multiple columns, right? So that rows is one thing which I would look forward for. Then the iter tuples. Iter tuples are basically just to view. Okay, you cannot manipulate the data on top of an iter tuples. Okay, it's iter tuples is only to view the data, and sometimes when the data size is huge, you need to just visualize the data before doing any kind of manipulation, right? So then you use iter tuples. So iter tuples again is over the rows itself, but again it's more from a view perspective. You're not going to do any changes, any iterations on that data. I'll show you how the iter tuples also look like. Okay, so now let's first jump towards iter items. Okay, so iter items again, it's something very good functionality, so we're going to talk about that. Cool. So yes, so I have again a beautiful looking data frame here. So I've passed the same series. So I'm creating 4 columns, 1, 2, 3 and 4. My indexes are 0, 1, 2, 3, right? And now this is the syntax. Okay, so I'm going to show it to you how the syntax of iter items look like first. Okay, so now as I said, my iter items always work in the key and the value pairs. Okay, so it gives you a pair of information. Now let's see this. So now what I want the key and the value both to be printed of all of my iter items. Okay, so let's see how the iter items first behave. So let's see, look at the data first. Okay, so this is your output. So I did key value pair on my iter items. Okay, so now let's see this, what all items it has picked. Can you see this? My key is 1. Okay, so I'm printing key and the value, right? So it is first printing the value key, okay, which is my 1. So it has taken 1 as my key. Okay, so here it is not going row wise, it is going column wise. So my key and the value pairs are my individual columns. Okay, so my keys are a series element here, so individual column will be one series, so that's how it is taking it as a key. Okay, so my key, first key is the column name, first column name, which is 1, right? So that's what it is printing here. And then it is printing the values. So what are the values? So I have 4 values here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And what are the indexes for this? 0, 1, 2 and 3, right? For the 0th index, I have the value 1, right? So that's what it is printing. For the 1 index, I have the value 2, right? Likewise, it is printing me. So this is my first key and the value pair. Okay. And now can you see this in the bottom? You can see the name and the D type. Again, very important thing to notice here, guys. So the name here is my key. Okay, so name is basically my column name, but it's basically my key for the iter items. Okay, and the data type is basically for the data type of that series, individual series. Okay, and the data type is in64, right? So it's in the in64 base. Cool. So that's how my iter items behave. Iter items is through my column values. Okay, always remember this. Iter items is iterating my data over my columns, where my key is my column name. Okay, so you can see this. My key is my column name, which is my 1, and then the data within my key, which is basically a value of my iter items. Okay, cool, guys. Any questions? Is always in the key value pairs. Any questions, please feel free to loop in your questions. I'll try to answer that. Cool. So that's about your iter items. Okay, and then you can, again, you already know this, right? So again, you can format, you can just format the data also. I have just tried to add in for you. So, so what if you want to look it more clearly? So you want to know what is my key value and what is my index value. So you can just use like this. Okay, so I can give you the same thing. So what I've done is I have rather said what is my index specifically and what is my value specifically. Okay, so I just further fine tune the formatting and you can use an F here, because F, the reason is, so now there are multiple values here, right? So you have to use your brackets for the defined variables as well, right? So if you use on top of my string an F, you can pass the elements as well here. Okay, so that formats your printing. So F is again a very good functionality which we generally use while printing. Cool. So here, it's a plain thing. So we are using 1 and 0. We don't know what is key, we don't know what is index, but yeah, but anyway, I have given the order, key and value. So it's implicit, but it's not explicit, right? So now we are explicitly saying it. So index is my key, so which is index is 1, and the values are the contents of my key, which content of my index. Cool. So that's how this works. Cool, good one. Now I'm gonna show you this. Okay, so now again I've put up a new data frame here. Okay, so I have a data frame for you. So I have the name, age and education. Okay, and then the IDs, ID1 and ID2 for my data, right? Now the question is, now you already know this, right? So I can if I do an iter items, it will give me the names separately, it will give me the age separately, it will give me the education separately, right? So now the question is, I want the first record only. So what I want, I only want the first record. I only want, say, Arpit's record. I don't want Rohit's record. Okay. Any idea, guys? How can I do this? Any idea? I'm going to use iter items. Okay, so I'm going to use iter items on top of this. Any idea, guys? How can we do this? If you want to only extract my first the value, first collection. So I want all the information of Arpit. How can I do that? Quick suggestion, guys. So if you are following me, if you are aware of this, just drop in your text. So the question is, I have this data frame where name, age and education are there. Now I want to only see the record of Arpit, not of Rohit. Okay, so I just want to see that. Okay, meanwhile you guys are trying, so I'm gonna just put it here. So So now how we normally do this for key and value in your df.iter items. Let's first print both. Okay, so let's first print both key and value. Cool. What do you think it will print? My bad. Okay, so can you see this? Now it has printed for all the records. So first it's given me the name, which is my key, and the ID 1 and the ID 2, right? So which is my Arpit and Rohit. What if I want the first record? So first indexing, can I give 0 here? Anybody's connecting with this? Does this sound relevant to you guys? So I just put an indexing for me to extract my first information of each individual series. Okay, I did that, right? So I want the first values of my individual keys. So individual keys are what? Name, age, and education, right? So I just put a slicing on top of it. I can give the index value here, right? If I give 1, I'll get the information of Rohit, right? So that's how you iter over your data. Okay, so that's how you iter over your data, and then you can eventually store this also. Okay, so you can eventually store this also in a different set, in a different list, in a different data frame, and then you can utilize this information later in your part of your any computation which you're doing in your data. Cool. So that's how your iter items behave. Okay, so iter items, always remember it's towards your columns. So here items are nothing but my columns. So keys are my columns and the individual contents are my values. Okay, cool guys. So that's how iter items behave. Cool. Let's now then jump to my iter rows. Let's do that. Cool. Let's in fact do the same thing here right away. Okay. Right. So now I'm gonna first uncomment it. Okay, so I think the same data frame, right? So now you have seen it for my key and the value pairs in my iter items, right? Now let's first try to run it in the iter rows, how it looks like. So same data frame, okay, same data frame. Let's see how it looks like. I'll just print it again for you, the entire data, okay? So then it'll become more easy for you to understand. So this is my entire data. So I have my names, which is my key, right? And then my age, and then my education. These are my keys, right? So now I want to do it for iter rows. So let's do this again. The iter rows again, the key and the value pairs, because key would be my row indexes, right? And then df.iter rows. Cool. Then I want to print key and value. Let's see this. Now can you see this? Here it first printed 3 keys. Okay, so you can see name is equal to name, name is equal to age, and name is equal to education. 3 keys for me, right? The same data frame you did iter rows, so it printed 2 keys. Name is equal to id 1 and name is equal to id 2, right? And did you see the object type here? So d type is object now, and you see this in this d type, the object d type is object for the names and int64 for my numbers, right? But here I have a collection of my data. So I have an object here, I have a number here, and then I have an object here, right? So it is giving me a d type of object. So this is again a very important thing. Okay, so you need to always remember this. So the iter rows is for my rows. So when you do an iter rows on my data frame, so it'll give you the keys, where the keys would be my row indexes. Okay, so just in iter items you saw that the indexes are my column names, but in iter rows it's my row names. Okay, clear? Again, if you do it like this, so now what if I do this? Okay, so key value of 0. Did you see? So it did not give me the entire content of Arpit because it is iterating over rows. So for me the indexes are like this. So row 0 would be this, 1 would be this, and 2 would be this, right? But if I do an iter items, my 0 would be this entire thing. So I mean for a column name, so 0 would be this, and the second would be this. You got it? So that's how the indexing is working, guys. Always remember this, because iter items and iter rows again is a very important concept in pandas, and you have to be very thorough with this if you want to use it in your functionalities, right? So again, just a quick recap. Iter items, always take it through my columns. My keys are my column names, okay, and the iter rows are my row names. The row indexes are my the keys here, okay. So you can see this name is ID1 and ID2, but here the names are education, age, or name. Cool. Any questions, guys? Any questions on this? I'm going to give you 30 seconds to digest this, but again, it's one of the key concepts, and I really want you to understand this before we jump to our final things, which is an iter tuples. Okay, so we're going to do that. Any questions on my iter items and iter rows, guys? Any questions? I'm all ears. Please put in your questions. We can take whatever you have. Any questions, guys? Any from anywhere? If you feel that this is more relevant, or you think it's too much to digest, please just drop in your comments. Then I would believe it is like I'm making it quite clear to you guys. That's surprising. Okay, I mean, everybody is so clear, so it's okay, fair enough. So again, if you still have any questions, please feel free to drop in your questions. If you won't interact, trust me, you won't understand this. So I always advise you to interact, right? So it actually makes me also attentive in the class, so otherwise I feel distracted, maybe people are not listening and all that, right? So let's try to interact the best you can. Anyway, your choice, right? So let's talk about the third thing, which is iter tuples. Okay, so iter tuples, if you remember, guys, I have told you what is iter tuples. So iter tuples is basically towards a viewing of my row information. Okay, so when I do an iter tuples, right, it'll result in a paired information, in like a tupled information of your entire row, all the indexes. So where my first index will be my row index anyway, and the key would be my row index, and the items would be the values would be my respective column elements, right? So that's how the iter tuples work. So let's show it to you. Now the good thing which you've just noticed is, so okay, anyway, so let me print df first. So df is again the same df, name, age, and education. Okay, ID1 and ID2. Cool. So this is my row indexes, and my column indexes like this. So now for iter tuples, can you see this? It does not behave in a key and a value pair. So I'm just gonna write row here, because iter tuples will take anyway with row wise. So the only column wise operation is in iter items. Okay, iter rows and iter tuples works row wise. Okay, and this iter tuples, it does not work in the key and the value pair. It just return the rows likewise. Okay, so let's print this and see. Can you see this? So it has returned a non-mutable element. So it has returned as a tuple, okay, a tuple of information. And then in this tuple, I have my index as ID1, so which is my key, so which is nothing but on which it has itered, okay. And then the respective values, okay. So the name is one of the key, age is one of the key, education is one of the key, right? So, and have you already seen it? So what is my df? I'll just print it right here, right? So I have my indexes as ID1 and ID2 for the rows, right? So ID1 and ID2 here, it's pretty much clear. So that is the reason why two information has been returned here. Two respective tuples have been returned, right? And then the respective values. So values are like name, age, and education, respective elements, Arpit 30 and MTech, Rohit 31 and PhD. So all of your values here returning as two individual non-mutable entities. Always remember, guys, iter tuples are only used to view your information, okay? Only to view your information. So nothing fancy. So you can also do this. So you can return, say, index of 0. So my bad. So again I have to return everything, so yeah, does not really make sense, right? So yeah, so what you can do is you can actually return your elements and you can see what exactly is part of my content here, right? So what exactly is comprising my entire data. So it's just for a view purpose, nothing to manipulate on top of it. Okay, clear guys? So difference between iter items, iter rows and iter tuples. Iter items, so I'm going to write it here, iter items on columns, okay, then iter rows, so I'm not gonna space it, otherwise you'll get confused. Iter rows is by default is written rows, so yeah, it's for rows, and then iter tuples is for rows non-mutable, just to view purpose. Cool guys, I hope this is pretty much clear. So that's where your iterations work in data frames. Okay, so again, it's very important concepts. Most of the people get confused in iter items and iter rows, right? So that's how it is. Cool guys, any questions here? So if this is fine, we can go to our next topic, which is sorting. Sorting we have seen a lot of times. We have already seen it with other Lambda functionalities. But then again, at that time also I've told you in Pandas we have a very good functionality in for sorting called as sort values. Okay, so you have heard we were doing something called as sorted as an inbuilt functionality, and we use dot sort. You use dot sort, right, as a function. We have been using this in Lambda functionalities, right? But here in Pandas we have something called as sort underscore values. Okay. And this is, trust me, very user friendly. So you have a lot of more, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility available in this data. Okay, so you can still do this. Okay, let's talk about few of the things in sort values. Okay, so I'm going to create a new unsorted data frame. Okay, so a random data frame. So in this, what I've done is I've created two columns 1 and 2. Okay. And here I'm passing, and indexes also have passed. Okay, so you can see unsorted indexes 1, 4, 6, 1, 4, 6, 2, 3, 5, 9, 8, 0, 7. So unsorted indexes here, right? But in the data, I'm passing a random values. Okay, so again, I'm using a functionality of numpy.random.rand. It'll give me the values in between the 10 indexes and the mean of 2. So it'll give me that. So I'm gonna do it like this. Cool, I just ran it. So I might just created some random set of values. Okay, so nothing fancy here. So do not get confused by this. We're gonna be covering NumPy later, so we're gonna go in detail for this. But I'm just creating some random values. Okay, this is my unsorted DF. So you can see this. I have 1, 4, 6, 2, 3, 5, 9, 8, 0, 7. All the unsorted indexes, as well as my data are unsorted. Right. So you can see 0.97 and 0.8217. So nothing is sorted here. Cool. So in Pandas. So right, so we have sort index and sort values. Cool. So here we have two, there are two ways where we can sort these data, right? So first is we can sort the indexes, like 1, 4, 6 and likewise, and then also we can sort the data by columns, right? So like an ascending order on a descending order, right? So for the first value, for the sort index, where I want to sort the index like 1, 4, 6, 2, 9 and 3 like this. So we have again a functionality, very clear functionality, sort index directly. Okay, so we can call sort index straight away, and let's try to see this. So I've stored it in a sorted df. Okay, so now I can see this. My indexes are sorted. So whatever my 0 is, say 0.3872 and 0.622939, right? So same thing has been copied here, right? So the indexes are being sorted. Okay, I just sorted the index, and by default you can see it's in ascending order, right? So by default it's in ascending order, right? So what if I want in a descending order? Again, we have a functionality here, something called as ascending, and if I do it as false, cool. So it'll just reverse the indexing. So 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Nothing fancy here. Okay, so sort index, you can do it straight away. Cool. So this is done. Now we have, right, so this sort value is actually very decent. Okay, so now this is my sort index. Now what if I want this to sort the data based on my column values? Okay, so now I have my, so I'm gonna do it like copy only, so let's be more easier. So now, so what I'm doing is on this unsorted df, so what is my unsorted df? So let's print the unsorted df first. Cool. So this is my unsorted df. So I have my column 1 and column 2, and my indexes are again not sorted, right? So I'm just sorting the values, and I have a functionality here by. So you can see this in terms of functionalities available. It's just a shift and a tab, and here you can see this, right? So I have something called as by, access, in place. I'll talk about kind also, and then ascending, right? And then in place is anywhere you know this. So now by I'm saying this, it is by column 1. Right? What is my column 1? This. Cool. Let's do this. If you see this, my columns are by default arranged in the ascending order based on the values, right? And can you still see this? My indexes are arranged according to the value items, right? It is not sorted, right? Yes, there is a possibility to now sort this indexing also, but if you sort the index directly on top of it, it will again unsort the column, right? So rather we'll do this reset index on top of it. You already know this reset index, right? Reset index, and this drop is equal to 2, so drop the original indexing, and then if you print this sorted df, you can see this. My bad, I did not save it like that. Cool. So you sorted, and then in the sorted data frame you have reset the index also. So now my first value will be marked as 0, and likewise, and then 1 2 3 4 likewise. So you have reset my index again. Okay, so you are resetting your index, right? And now again you can sort it by multiple columns also. So by columns 1, and then you can provide it under a list, and then do column 1 and column 2 also. Okay, so you can do this. So multiple things you can pass straight away, it's possible. Okay, but again the important thing to note is kind. Okay, so you saw something as kind, right? So here, so you have by here. So let's comment it for now, and then you have something called as kind. Okay, so in this kind, let's look at the documentation. So you call it something called Quicksort. So it takes few of the data structures algorithm also. So you have so there are 3 types of sorting. I believe it supports. I don't remember them. Yeah, so we have 3 sets of sorting here. So Quicksort, heap sort, and merge sort. Okay, so by default it is Quicksort. You can see this default is Quicksort if you do not give anything. So, but again, if you want to use any data structures algorithm kind of a sorting here, like a merge sort or a heap sort, you can use this also. So suppose if you want to kind of say heap sort, and you want to sort it as an index, and then do this, yes, you can still get the values by kind of a heap sort. The logic would be heap sort here. Cool. So it does support few of the data structures sorting algorithms as well. Only 3 as of now. So heap sort, quick sort, and merge sort. Cool. So that's about your sorting, guys, on data frames. So yes, so now we're gonna jump into the questions. Okay, so we have some good questions prepared, so we're gonna do it live. Cool. So I think we are pretty much okay with the time, right? So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop in your questions. I'm gonna wait for a couple of more minutes to take your questions, or else if you're okay, I would request you to take a quick break of 15 minutes. So we're gonna end this stream, and then there's another stream going live in the next 15 minutes. Okay, so let's take a quick 15 minutes of break, right? And then let's join on the next stream where we're going to do some live questions. Okay, so it's always good to do some questions. I mean, otherwise it'll be more of a lecture, right? So lecture, again, you will hear it and you'll forget it. I don't want it to be like that. Okay, so I would request you to guys, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in your questions, or else if you're okay, please join in the next stream, so which is at 11:15. Okay, so 11:15 we're gonna cover few of the exercises on pandas. Okay, so I've prepared some really good questions, and it's gonna cover the concepts which we have already seen. Okay, so that's gonna be your revision, and that's gonna be more of a practice revision. Okay, cool, guys. Any questions so far? Anything which you want to talk about? Any questions or any doubts or any feedback is also most welcome. If you have anything, please feel free to drop in your points here in the chat. Okay, so if you do not have anything, guys, I'm gonna give you 10 minutes of break. Please go ahead and take a quick break, and do join at 11:15 for the sessions on the questions, right? Okay, we have one question from Rinkesh, and he says, "So useful of the library in studying DSA is good or bad, or while making projects?" Uh, okay, so yes, so in your DSA subject, definitely you a lot of libraries which you generally use, right? So it again depends what kind of language you are using to use your DSA, whatever data structures you're trying to sort, right? So it depends on what language you are using. So if you're using Python for your data structures, so yes, definitely there are a lot of libraries in data structure which are specifically designed for data structure side of kind of a problem, right? I can give you some names for that. But again, but I would request you to let's try to first understand what you're trying to solve, what you're trying to do. Okay, if you're just trying to do some stack problems or queue problems or some greedy algorithms and all that, so Pandas is very much okay with that. So you have all the functionalities available. You can actually do this in this. But again, there are some other functionalities, there are other libraries as well which we can help you. But again, likewise, you can do it in some other language also, like C++. You can do it in Java also, right? So it depends what exactly you are, where exactly you want to, where you want to solve your problem. Okay, so that's something which you have to first look out for. Okay, because the same thing can be done in all the languages, like Python, C++, Java, Ruby, Perl. I can do the same thing in multiple languages. Yeah, I mean, might not be doing the exact replica, right? Yeah, because some codes, some languages does provide some flexibility in some other areas, right? But again, more or less, we can do same kind of job in multiple languages, right? It's okay. So you need to first identify what language you're going to use it for your DSA, and then if you want to use some particular language, and how can you implement in that language? Okay, so yeah, so Pandas does have some functionalities, but again, the objective of using Pandas is towards data science part. Okay, so it is not towards data structures part, right? So likewise, for data structures, there will be some other libraries available, so we can figure out that. Cool. Thank you for asking this question, Rinkesh. I hope I answered your question. Cool. So it's 11:05, guys. I'm gonna give your 10 minutes of break. So please take a quick break of 10 minutes. Do join after 15 minutes. From 11:15, we're gonna solve the exercises. Okay. So be active in that class, please. So I would request you to solve the questions along with what we're gonna talk in the class. Cool. So let's join in 10 minutes, guys. 11.